Actman situation. Actman vs. YouTube. The Actman is a large YouTuber who recently posted an hour-long video, basically an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, on another YouTube channel going over all the awful things that they've done or said in their time on the internet. And as a result of posting this video, he received a strike. YouTube took it down due to nudity and sexual content because of a poorly photoshopped cucumber next to the person's mouth who the video was about. That seems like a pretty drastic over-enforcement of the rule. If they really found it to be highly sexual, it should have just resulted in limited ads as opposed to a full strike on the channel. Like, I've eaten a banana in a video before, and now I'm starting to sweat. Like, what might happen to me? It just really felt like one of those moments that was a full-blown mistake, and we've seen it a million times in the past, where the YouTube bots controlled by Skynet malfunction and issue a strike at random by accident, and then it's overturned shortly thereafter. However, the appeal was rejected within, I believe, 30 minutes of the Actman submitting it. A manual rejection, which means someone with a pulse supposedly looked at it and still said, yep, that shit's staying off the platform. We're putting the kibosh on it right now. So then it became a little bit fishier. Why? The reasoning just doesn't make any sense. It's not like he uploaded Mr. Hands or 2 Girls, 1 Cup in his video. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny piece of an hour-long video that had something that is slightly sexual and by all definitions pretty inoffensive. Almost no one's gonna look at that and be like, holy shit, cover your eyes. Oh my lord, he's going too hard. He's going hog wild out there. It's just not the most sexually explicit thing in the world. Even if they're going full Weenie Hut Jr. mode here, it's still pretty tame by those definitions. Like, it just didn't make any sense. I also think this highlights another shortcoming YouTube's had since the beginning of time, where if a single minuscule piece of a video is a problem, they strike the whole video. They take the whole thing down instead of just letting you yourself remove that piece, that insignificant little piece, that 2 or 3 second little problem zit. Why not just let the creator pop it? YouTube has a built-in editor where you can take things out. So why not just alert the channel like, hey, the video's fine, but there's this one part that's a problem. If you want to keep it in, it's going to get age restricted or you're going to get a strike. But you can take it out and nothing will happen. We're letting you know you have 1 week to take it out. Every single channel would elect to take it out. Like in Actman's case, if they just told him the cucumber Photoshop thing is a problem, I'm certain he would have used the editor to just take it out of the video. Problem solved, and then there's no issue. And that saves YouTube a lot of trouble as well, because that completely avoids the ensuing shitstorm. Why not just let us use the editor to take out the problem? It's something that I also pitched to Susan, the CEO of YouTube, when I talked to her, and she thought it was a great idea, as did the policy head. That was 2 years ago. When is it coming? But anyway, in his anger, he turned to the dark side and committed the sin that every YouTuber is guilty of. He went to Twitter to start a shitstorm to finally force a real answer out of YouTube, to finally get an actual response and real action from the company. But unfortunately for Actman, he ended up with YouTube's cucumber in his mouth. They responded to this by age-restricting 2 videos of his that were completely unrelated, and then just hitting the speedrun any % record for appeal rejections by slapping it down in 30 minutes. So, needless to say, the Twitter action wasn't super effective for Actman, but this was only the beginning. Because as of 2 hours ago, YouTube wasn't done huffing and puffing. They blew his whole house down. They demonetized Actman's entire channel, leaving him ineligible for future monetization. This is essentially being fired from his job, all without ever getting a single explanation as to why. It just happened. So this seems like a complete failure on YouTube's part here, and everything that resulted after the initial strike was done in pure pettiness. There's one more thing I'd like to talk about, and it's a little unrelated to the exact Actman situation, but it has to do with the way YouTubers get YouTube's attention directly. As you've noticed throughout the entire history of YouTube, every time there's a problem, people go to Twitter to talk about it, and vent about it, and tag YouTube in it. And the reason for that is because for most channels, that's the only means of getting a response from the company. Do you know how fucking pathetic that is? To have people like Actman, who are essentially employees, having to go on Twitter and publicly whine about their boss? That's so demoralizing. having to grovel at their feet, cry and beg for just a little scrap of information as to what's going on and if they can lend a little hand to fix a problem. That is just the worst system of all time. But that's the only way most YouTubers have any access to the company, and it seems to be the only efficient way of getting things solved. And I'm guilty of doing it too. I've gone on Twitter to take a fat dump Baruski on YouTube for something they fucked up on, because I try every other alternative going through all of the proper YouTube channels, but it never leads to solutions. The only thing that does is by making a big hubbub on Twitter about it. It's just so pathetic. No YouTuber or anyone wants to be publicly whining on Twitter about a problem. They want it to be fixed behind the scenes, and YouTube shouldn't want it to be a big problem on Twitter either. The Actman shit has been trending for like 12 hours now. It's like the #1 trend in the world. And it's bad for YouTube, but he's tried everything else. He's been talking to his partner manager, whom I'm just going to say seems like has no power in this situation, which is about par for the course because a lot of times partner managers have absolutely no ability to solve problems. They're fundamentally